So who is the best back on earth? That is what we're going to find out in this video. Well, so we're going to find out. You're going to hear my opinion on who the best backs are in the world, position by position through the back line, and then overall as well. And thank you very much for watching. I've already done one of these videos on the forwards. That's in the feed. And if I haven't earned your subscription yet, I'm hoping that this might be the video where I get it. I'm Tim, and this is Egg Chasers. And I got a question, actually, on the last video from Matthew Slynn. Nice one, Matthew. He said, Tim, what is the weighting you're putting onto different factors when you come up with these top 10 lists? And that's worth me just taking a second to explain. So like World Rugby's world rankings, which come out monthly, they take into account, they've got a big algorithm that takes into account performances over a long period of time, a few years. And I want to consider the body of a work of a player and not just go, that player had a brilliant game at the weekend, they fly up my top 10 list. So I'm trying to, there's no algorithm working it out. It's just a gut feeling here. But I do want to consider the body of work of a player as well as how they're currently performing. But that does mean as well, there's plenty more to debate. So with that in mind, please do leave your comments. I love reading them. Tell me what you think about this. My top 10 scrum halves on earth right now. And no surprise to see the top one, Antoine Dupont. Obviously, he's a freak. We're living in a time of one of the greatest rugby players ever to have played the game. And that is him. Aaron Smith at number 2. Faf de Klerk at number 3. I think he's won the shirt back now from Jaden Hendrickse, who's at number 7 for South Africa. Maybe Faf de Klerk hasn't been operating at the level that he has done in the past, but he's certainly given signs that he's getting back to that level against England. He certainly did. Nick White, classy player. He's just the glue in a team, like all great scrum halves, and Australia are much better for having him in it. I think he's great. And Jameson Gibson-Park at number 5 for Ireland as well. And those top 5 scrum halves, especially, play with such tempo. In international rugby now, it's all about speed of ball. And if you've got a team that can generate quick ruck speed, having a scrum half that can get the ball away rapidly is massive. And Jameson Gibson-Park is brilliant at that. And so are the 4 above him. 2 replacement scrum halves at 6 and 7 who, if they were of a different nationality, they'd start for a lot of other national teams. TJ Perenara and Jaden Hendrickse. Santiago Arata for Uruguay at number 8. Have you seen him play? Because Uruguay don't really get the chance to play many Tier 1 opposition. He is brilliant. He's a real live wire. And I'm not patronising him when I say this. I'm putting him there at number 8 on merit. He is brilliant and part of a rising rugby force. And it's great to see. Thomas Williams at Wales. I think if there was a British and Irish Lions team picked tomorrow, Jameson Gibson-Park would get the job starting 9 and Thomas Williams would be on the bench. In a poor Welsh team, he actually looks good. And he's been looking good for some time now. No Scots, no English players on this list. Both are in periods of transition. Scotland seem to have handed the number 9 shirt to Ben White. Watch this space on him. And England to Jack Van Portvliet, maybe Alex Mitchell. Watch this space on that. But Thomas Williams representing Wales there at 9 with Gonzalo Bertranou at number 10 for Argentina. And he's been really important in helping bed in a new fly half for Argentina. And with that in mind, let's jump 2 fly halves. And Santi Carreras of Argentina at number 4 there. I love the way he plays. There are some players at international level, and the best players at international level, always, even international rugby, you have less time, less space. Defences are on you faster. And some players just seem to have time, even then. And Santi Carreras is one of those. He's so composed. And when there's a gap, he's got the wheels to just go. And I think he's been playing brilliantly. And much like in the NFL, there's a trend for quarterbacks who have a running game as well. So they're a real triple threat. And Santi Carreras is a bit like that in rugby. Him and Damien Willems are actually very much like that, like running, ball playing, fly halves. I guess Richie Mwanga a little bit like that too, to a lesser extent. But those two particularly play like that. And, well, the fact they both play fullback as well says a lot about that, doesn't it? As for the top 3, Johnny Sexton, you can't look past him. World Player of the Year nominee, former World Player of the Year, captain of the team that are number 1 in the world rankings. If Ireland are to get beyond the quarterfinals, which they've never managed in a World Cup, Johnny Sexton is absolutely massive for them. Owen Farrell at 5. This is where it was hard to pick because Owen Farrell's hardly played fly half for England. I think he's genuinely world class, but it's not his fault that he's good enough in another position that he gives coaches other options. And so I've put Owen Farrell at 5. I'm happy to be pulled apart in the comments for that. I back it up, and I think he'll justify that selection in the weeks and months ahead. But we will see, I guess. Ntamak and Jalibert at 7 and 8. Hard to separate for who wears the 10 jersey for France, let alone on this list. That's going to be a little battle between two great young 10s for years to come. Dan Biggar at number 9, one of the players dropping down at the minute. He had a terrible game against Scotland last week. His body of work suggests that he is exceptional. But will he be starting for 10 for Wales? I suspect when Gareth Ainscombe comes back, Dan Biggar might be on the bench. Unsure, to be confirmed, but that's what I suspect may happen. So the next time we do this, maybe Gareth Ainscombe will be on the list and Dan Biggar won't be. Same goes Marcus Smith. He could be flying up the list, or maybe more likely he'll be dropping out because he's not going to be starting 10 for England. And maybe he's not even going to be on the bench for England if George Ford has anything to do with it. Watch this space on that one. No Australians. Bernard Foley might feel hard done by there. I think Australia, when you go through this backline, you just notice how many talented players they've got, but how many of them can play in various positions, so you're not totally sure what their plans are. And again, even at 10, I don't totally know what Eddie Jones's plan will be. We'll see, I guess. On to inside centre then. And I've done a video, actually. It's in the feed, and it was looking at it from an English rugby perspective, but making a broader point that this is one of the hardest positions to find talent in. Because to be a great inside centre at international level, you have to have great distribution skills, a good kicking game, and you have to be a big, strong unit as well. All those things together are very rare. And so I would say, of all the positions, this is probably the poorest pool to pick from. Nonetheless, some great players on this list. Damien Diolande, Robbie Henshaw, Jonathan Donty, Geordie Barrett. Again, Geordie Barrett, do you know... I think New Zealand seem to be wanting to use him as a 12 now, but he could be back at fullback or on the wing. Who knows? But I think he's a great 12. David Havili, whenever he plays there, looks good, so I've got him at 7. Karevi, we just haven't seen enough of him on the rugby field for Australia. I'm hoping he gets back fit because he is just such a threat. Just his sheer presence on the field, being such a big unit and great ball carrier, just opens up space for other people. Hunter Paisami in his steads look great. That's why he's on the list at 8. Sione Tuipulotu, one of the players rising up. Scotland, he's been brilliant and good distribution skills, but a great ball carrying threat as well. So he looks really good. Andre Esterhazen, maybe you might question that one at 9. But if he was any other nationality, he'd have so many more caps. He is brilliant. And Ravuvu for Fiji. Relatively young in his international career, but looks so good. He had a debut season for the Drua in Super Rugby, looked great. Looked at home in international rugby. He's moving to Bristol Bears, which I think will kick his game on again. And watch out for Ravuvu at the World Cup. He could be one of those dark horses. Outside centre, Lekano Am, Gary Ringrose. Gary Ringrose, I've got to say, I think... Yeah, actually, Gary Ringrose might be more irreplaceable than Johnny Sexton for Ireland. If Gary Ringrose was out, I think it might leave a bigger hole in that team even than Johnny Sexton, and that speaks volumes about how important Gary Ringrose is and how well he is playing. Gail Fiku, Rico Ioane, he's been New Zealand's best attacking player from what I've seen, even though he's still learning this position. Henry Slade at 5. I just think he's a Rolls Royce of a rugby player and looks fantastic whenever he does play. He's been just playing in a very poor team. And I'm selfishly hoping that will change. The Fijian captain at number 6. And one of his compatriots at number 8, Semi Radradra. I couldn't look past him because he is that good. And if he gets fit and actually plays international rugby again, frightening prospect. We saw that at the 2019 World Cup, just how good he is. Let's see him fit. Len Ikitau, whenever Australia have used him, he looks decent. And then Chris Harrison, Hugh Jones, duking it out for that starting 13 shirt for Scotland. Hugh Jones has it at the minute and has looked great. Chris Harris has got enough of a body of work that he justifies that spot at number 9 at the minute, although that could very much change come the next time we do it if Hugh Jones stays in the 13 jersey. Wing. Oh, I'll tell you what, this was the toughest position to pick. What do you make of this top 10? Damien Penaud. I heard some ridiculous stat about Damien Penaud. I need to check if this is actually right. But someone said, apparently Damien Penaud has scored more tries than he has times he's been tackled because he offloads all the time, or he's just so slippery and manages to get away from tackles. I mean, that's a frightening stat if it's even remotely true. But that is kind of how he plays. He just has this knack of breaking contact and of popping up in the right place at the right time. I think he's outstanding. And Duhan van der Merwe, unplayable just now. South Africa. Imagine, right, look at number 2 and 3. Imagine South Africa had Duhan van der Merwe on the left wing, Cheslin Colby on the right wing. That would be something else, wouldn't it? But no. How South Africa let Duhan van der Merwe go, I don't know, but Scotland are very, very glad to have him, and he's been brilliant. Emiliano Buffelli, what a year he's had for Argentina. It's quite telling, actually. Argentina have got so many great wing options with him off and Carreras and Sinti and a couple of others whose names I forget now. But they always pick Buffelli. This is the point. They always pick Buffelli in their back three, and he has had an exceptional year or so. Rightly, at number 4 there. Marika Korobetti at 5, love him. He'll make a couple of stupid errors every game, but he'll do 5 things that no one else on the rugby pitch could do. Will Jordan, get fit and get playing regularly, please, because you love to watch this guy. He is just a baller. Kurt Arenza. I mean, Makazole Mapimpi might feel a bit hard done by this selection. I'm just so excited by Arenza. He's just electric. And he's some of his fundamentals are really good as well. He's actually really good in the air. Defensively, he's solid, but what footwork and gas. He's quite frightening. James Lowe, another great year for Ireland. Jordan Pataya. I don't know exactly where Australia are using him. Are they going to use him at 13? Fullback even, maybe? I don't know. But they seem to be playing him on the wing, and I like the look of Pataya. And Lewis Rees-Zammit, another player you want back fit and firing. Even in a poor Welsh team, he will do magical things that no one else could. To fullback. Now, one of the most common messages on the last video, as people were anticipating this one on the backs, is Hugo Keenan is the best fullback. I don't even think they were just Irish fans saying that as well. He is playing exceptionally well, and I think that is reflected in the fact he is number 2. But as I said, I'm considering a body of work overall, not just how did Beauden Barrett play in the last game versus how did Hugo Keenan play in his last game. I've got Bodie Barrett at number 1. And Hugo Keenan with Ange Capuozzo of Italy there. I think it's the only Italian that's made any of the top 10 lists in the backs. Paolo Garbisi would have been the next closest to have got there, but he just missed out in the 10 spot. But Hugo Keenan and Ange Capuozzo, they just don't look like they should be international rugby players, let alone as good as they are, and they are very, very good. Juan Cruz Malia for Argentina has been great. Thomas Ramos, Vili LaRue, Freddie Stewart. I think there'll be some England fans thinking, hold on, Freddie Stewart's the best fullback in the world. He's got a way to go yet. I think he could be. What he's brilliant at, he is amazing at his aerial skills, but there are some little gaps that he can fill defensively, being one of them. And he can be an attacking threat, but I want to see that. Liam Williams and Stuart Hogg, they're 2 of the players whose stock is dropping, hoping that they can recover their form. I think Stuart Hogg's under pressure for his shirt from Blair Kinghorn, who could be a new addition to the list in the months ahead. Liam Williams, I think he'll probably hold on to his spot as Welsh fullback, and I think he's class. And David Niniashvili for Georgia to round it off, one of the most exciting players in World Rugby. He's, 21? And looks like a proper player, and it's great to see. So there you go. That is the 6 top 10s in the back line. Is that right? Scrum half, fly half, inside centre, outside centre, wing. Yeah. So of those 60 players, I've now whittled it down to 10. The 10 best players in the back line. As I see it currently, Antoine Dupont, best back in the world. Locarno Am, Damien Penaud, Johnny Sexton, Beauden Barrett and Aaron Smith, Duhan van der Merwe, Cheslin Colby, Emiliano Buffelli and Gary Ringrose. 2 Irishmen, 2 Frenchmen, 2 South Africans, 2 Kiwis, a Scot and an RG. There you go. I'm quite happy with that list. I feel that reflects what players have done in recent memory and the talent that goes out onto the field now. And those two players there at 1 and 3 are why. It's not just France have got a good all-round team and a good all-round squad, but at World Cups, it's special players do special things. And those two players in Antoine Dupont and Damien Penaud are very, very special. And when it comes to a World Cup final or a tight World Cup semi-final, those are two players who will make the difference. That's my top 10 list. Anyone you think should be in a different position, higher, lower, or not in it? I can imagine some Hugo Keenan fans will be angry he's not in the top 10. He's not far off, and he's on the rise. But that's mine as I see it. I will revisit this list, the list of all the positions, and what I am going to do in a final video, which I will release, on this player power rankings theme, I will do an overall, like they have the world rankings, I'll do an overall player top 10, putting the forwards and the backs together to do the ultimate top 10, and I'll do a separate video on that because I'll go into a little bit more depth on each of the players and my reasons for the selection as well. So in the meantime, please leave your comments. If you've got to this point in the video, you've either dozed off and you've just woken up, or you actually quite liked it, and if that's the case, please consider hitting subscribe. I'd really appreciate it. I'm Tim. See you on the next video.